Christmas Eve, 1914. 5 months into World War I. The soldiers lay in trenches, the Allied troops to one side, the Germans on the other, and the land between them was called no man's land. In these trenches, they were cold and hungry and fearful, and as they tried to warm their hands with their breath, it rose into the air. Suddenly, in the night, in the quiet, a sound rises, and it is singing. The hymn, Silent Night, is being risen by the Germans from the trenches across no man's land. The Allied troops join in, singing Silent Night. Slowly and cautiously, they start to come out of those trenches, to cross no man's land, as no man felt they should. But in that moment, hearing of that silent night, they met each other on the field, extending hands, open hearts, sharing cigarettes and chocolates and pictures of loved ones. Even a football game erupted that day. Whoop. There we go. As you can see, the men standing there together. In that moment, the battlefield became Bethlehem. For a short few hours of time together and putting down the weapons. Many thought that that would be the end of the battle. Many thought that World War I in that moment would be over. But it continued for 4 agonizing years. They stayed in those trenches with boots that were heavy with mud, still hungry, still cold, and fighting for us, so that we may be here today to enjoy that peace as we gather together to honor them. Enters in a small dog, Stubby. Looks kind of familiar. Doesn't Stubby look familiar? Yeah. Well, my little Maisie looks like this, maybe. That was Maisie previously, but little wee Stubby. Stubby had no pedigree, nor did he have a plan when he entered into the military drills in Connecticut for the 102nd Infantry. Stubby started to imitate the men and women and started to march with them. Stubby even learned how to salute with his paw. When they were called to go overseas to the battle, Corporal Robert Conroy, took Stubby in his coat and took him over to the front lines. Stubby became more than a mascot, he was a lifeline. Stubby would bark because he could hear the shelling and the bombs that were coming through the air before the men. And he would run back and forth in the trenches to let them know to take cover. At night, while the men and women slept, Stubby would start to sense the gas that was coming across the field, could sense it, smell it, and would start barking to wake up those soldiers so that they would be aware of what was coming at them. They say Stubby also would go out with the medics to find the wounded and to bring them back to camp. Stubby also grabbed hold of a German soldier's leg that was trying to get into the trenches and into the Allied camp. He wouldn't let go until someone came and took that man. fierce loyalty is what God has given this little animal. This little one who they called Stubby, with a little curled tail, but great honor, great love. And so today, I wear a pin in honor of the dogs that were at battle beside those soldiers. We now go to Warrior, who was a war horse. He was owned by General Jack Seeley. General Seeley trained this horse for battle, and he took him overseas and rode him through the fields of battle. The soldiers said that Warrior seemed to be never able to be killed by the Germans. Ever brave, ever loyal, ever spirited, as that horse and General Jack Seeley crossed into the wars, into the battlefields, through smoke and through fire. I forgot to tell you there's an ending to Stubby's story, that he does return back to Connecticut, and he has this big parade and he gets medals onto his little uniform. So too does Warrior return to the farm where he began. And remarkably enough, he lives another 33 years. After carrying that man into battle, and General Jack Seeley would say, you could see Warrior ready to go in and to feel the strength and the power within him. Never hesitated, never deserted the general. He said his ears were picked up and that he stood strong and went into that battle, eyes glistening and heart as big as can be, saving many men and women and taking that general to the battles. And so today I wear a pin with a horse on it, remembering, similar to Spielberg's war horse story, all of the horses that bared the burdens of courage to enter into the battle. This is General James Campbell Calhoun. He came from Montreal, a Canadian. He was over in Dunkirk. Perhaps some of you have watched the movie, and if you have not, it's one you must. Honoring the bravery of these soldiers. In Dunkirk, the Germans were coming from around them, and the Allied forces, hundreds of thousands of them, were trapped. Their only hope was to get across that channel. And so boats came from the other side, and boats from where they were, and they took them across the way. This man, General James Campbell Calhoun, stood at the end of a long pier, waiting for those boats to arrive. And when they came, he calmly and encouraged each person, each soldier, to get in that boat. He never deserted those men or that stand that he made to help them to get into those boats and to safety. 5 long, arduous days later, General Calhoun got in a boat with those that were left and started to go over across the channel. While going across the channel, gunfire and bombs flew, and his boat ripped apart from stem to stern. All were in the water, struggling, trying to grab a piece of wood of part of that boat. And General James Campbell Calhoun, they say, continued to encourage the men to hang on and to wait for help. Unfortunately, he did not survive. A bark in the night to awaken the men to safety. A neigh and galloping into that battlefield without fear, carrying courage upon his back. A whisper of encouragement, of love, and of hope, who were in fear for their lives, and he took them from death to life. Remembrance Day is not about nostalgia. It is about remembering. It's remembering and carried forward that which was carried for us. And we must remember. We must not forget. Ne oblas glaveris, my friends. Do not forget this day. And continue to carry those soldiers within your heart, these that have come before us, and those that are still in battle for our safety and our freedom, even this day. May the peace of Jesus Christ come into our hearts and minds this day. And as Jesus has said, there has not been any greater love than someone to lay down their life for his and her friends. Let us not forget. Amen.